I wiped the snow off my face and looked up to see who had spoken. Emma stood in front of me. Her face was red from the cold, but even I could see the anger on it. Behind her, Zane limped out too, using a piece of firewood as a cane. Did you kidnap this girl from somewhere? How could you treat her like this when she's still so young? Emma took a deep breath, her voice shaking in fury. My parents still had not figured out what was happening, but when Grandma saw them coming out of the shed, she shot me a sharp look. Why, you good-for-nothing? How dare you bring this much trouble into my house? Who told you that you could do that? Speak. She kicked me in the stomach, and I curled even more out of the pain. What are you doing? This is child abuse. Emma stepped between us as she pulled me up while I was still numb in shock. She then carefully brushed the snow off me. If you don't want to raise her, we will. Grandma was about to start screaming again, but my father stepped forward first and gave Emma a hard look. Who are you? Why are you in my home? This is our family matter. How we discipline our kid is none of your business. Exactly. You think I don't know anything? This is trespassing. It's only normal if I throw you out, Grandma said, as she spat on the ground, tightening her grip on the iron shovel. The threat in her voice was obvious. Zane frowned and forced himself upright to shield Emma. Sorry, she's my friend. The snow has blocked the road and we can't leave yet. Don't worry, we won't stay for free. We'll pay you. He pressed his lips together and took the watch off his wrist, then handed it to my father. My parents exchanged a look. They clearly recognized the brand and its worth. Grandma didn't care about any of that. She yanked me over and slapped me hard. No wonder things have been going missing. It was you little thief, running around trying to please these outsiders, are you? Who taught you all that, you scheming little rat? Her eyes opened wide as she hurled the ugliest insults she could find. Why have you never shown this kind of devotion to your sister? So you're just trying to butter up these outsiders, huh? You want to laze around and latch onto them? Well, keep dreaming. She pinched my cheeks so hard my face burned. Emma couldn't take it anymore as she shoved Grandma away. She then turned to my parents again as she said, "This is child abuse. She's of school age, right? You don't even let her go to school and just keep her up here in the mountains." Her sharp gaze slid to my sister. My sister was younger than me, but she had been pampered, as evidenced by her rosy cheeks and height. She was even taller than me. She went to an international preschool. While I couldn't even read, she could already say a few lines in a foreign language. And there she stood with my mom, watching me get hurt like it was something ordinary. She was used to this favoritism. There was even a small smile on her lips, almost as though she was enjoying the show. You only care about your younger daughter, and you don't even treat the older one like a normal person, Emma questioned them as she gritted her teeth. My parents looked embarrassed for a moment, then their faces hardened. She's our daughter, and we'll raise her however we want. That's none of your business. Grandma also made a point as she grabbed my hair and yanked it. It was so painful I couldn't help but let out a cry. Before you go meddling in someone else's business, you should see whether you have the ability to back it up. She then started dragging me toward the house. I shook with fear because I knew exactly what kind of beating waited for me inside. I almost begged and cried for help. But then I saw Emma step forward in a panic, and I forced myself to swallow it down. No, don't speak up for me. She still couldn't leave this place. If she made my parents angry, they could throw her out into the mountains, and she would be done for. Zane seemed to understand that too. He reached out and stopped Emma. That posture eased my parents a little. For the sake of the money, my father raised his chin at the shed and said, "Go inside. Don't cause trouble in someone else's house. That's basic courtesy." Emma clenched her fists. Zane held her arm, his voice turning cold. Let go. That day, I did not escape unscathed. Grandma forced me to take off my shirt, and the wooden stick came down hard on my back. Old wounds flared up, and new ones were added on top of them. One shook with pain and cried out. Grandma sneered and cursed. "Stop the act. You still think those two will save you? You scheming little..." When she finally got tired, she threw me back into the shed. She shot a smug look at Zane and Emma as the door was slammed shut. Emma rushed over and pulled me up, her eyes already red. "How could she do this to you?" "I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have spoken up so recklessly." I wanted to shake my head, but the painful sensation flared up. My vision blurred, and I passed out. I woke to the sound of Emma crying. Zane's leg looked infected, and he had a fever too. Emma was so frantic she nearly threw her phone as she shouted, "This was your stupid idea, and now you're the one passing out? Hello? Is anyone there? Why is there no signal again?" Emma almost cried as she fumbled with her phone. I forced my eyes open. When I saw Zane's pale face as he lay in bed, one instantly realized that we were in trouble. "I'll go get some medicine," I said as I pushed myself up, ignoring the searing pain in my back. "You haven't recovered either. If you go back and your grandmother catches you." Emma grabbed my arm, but she did not finish her sentence. "It's fine. I'm used to it. They won't kill me," I said as I tried to smile at her, but it looked worse than crying one knew. Everyone in the house would be asleep by now. I held my breath and crept into Grandma's room, and I quickly dug through the drawer until I found a few boxes of pills. When I finally made it back to the shed, sweat covered my forehead. Emma held my hand and swore, "Don't worry, we'll take you away." I nodded, but I was so tired my body just gave up as I collapsed once again. I did not know how long I slept. When I woke up again, I realized one was somewhere warm. It was not a bed. It was a car. In the back seat with a thick blanket on it. Someone had treated the wounds on my back, and only a bearable ache remained. "Are you awake, little one?" a man asked from the front seat. I stared at him, confused. He then explained quickly, "I'm a driver working for the White family. A few days ago, Mr. White and Ms. Clark came to the mountains for a vacation and had an accident, and we couldn't reach them. It took a long time, but we finally found them. They're inside now, discussing taking you away." My heart jumped. I sat up at once and tried to get out. The driver had no choice but to support me as we went inside. The moment I stepped through the door, Grandma's eyes turned to me. Mom and Dad looked at me too. "Regardless, Hazel is my daughter. I carried her for 10 months, Mom said, clutching her chest. "She was raised by my mother-in-law all these years, so we simply paid less attention." "How can we give our own child to someone else?" Dad snorted, like it was all a joke. "You outsiders have no right to point fingers at our family. Even if you are rich, you can't simply buy someone else's daughter." His gaze landed on me. "Hazel, say it. Are you really going to leave home and abandon your parents?" I looked at the confidence on his face and clenched my fists. They had only ever loved Mia. They had never loved me. Every time I secretly used the phone in the house to call them, they hung up the moment they heard my voice. How laughable. Now they acted like they could not bear to let me go. But why? "I don't want you," I said as I raised my eyes and met theirs. I did not shrink back this time. I continued, enunciating my words clearly. "I'm going to have new parents. I don't want you anymore." Zane let out a soft laugh and pulled me behind him and Emma after he heard my declaration. Only then did I notice Zane and Emma were both seated. Behind them stood several men in black suits. They looked like bodyguards from a TV show. Maybe they were lawyers? I stared at Emma, confused as she smiled at me gently. "Just watch, we're taking you with us." Zane tossed a stack of papers onto the table and tapped his knuckles on it. "Oliver, right? You work at that multinational company, and you've got a shot at a promotion next year?" He turned his head and asked one of the men behind him, "Didn't that little company submit a project proposal to White Group? Tell me, what do you think his boss is going to do when he finds out Oliver has wrecked that project and sunk the whole company?" My dad went from confused to terrified in seconds. "White Group? You're from that White family?" His eyes darted between Emma and Zane. Only then did it hit him. There was something extraordinary about the way they looked up close, and there was a certain pressure in their posture that set them apart from common folks. He had never imagined they were this powerful. Emma smiled at my parents, her tone light enough to sound almost casual. "How do you want to do this? Quietly or publicly? Clark Group has lawyers too. I'm sure they can put you behind bars for a few years for child abuse." My parents visibly flinched. Zane flicked a card onto the table. "That's enough, I suppose." The number he had in mind had been much higher at first. But he already knew people like my parents would never let go so easily, and now he was out of patience. He knew they had no choice, and they didn't. My parents swallowed their rage and signed the agreement with shaking hands, swearing they would cut ties with me completely. When I got back into the car, Emma held me tight. "How are you this thin?" She sobbed as she rested her chin on my head and held my hand. "It's all right. From now on, everything will only get better." Warmth I had never known surrounded me as my heart pounded. I watched the car move along the winding mountain road, and we left the mountains in just a little while. Then we drove onto the wide highway, hooked back in a daze. I thought to myself how the mountain that had always seemed so tall, so huge, was gone after such a short drive. I did not know how much time had passed before the car finally stopped at an estate. That was when I realized that we were in a place that looked like the gardens on TV, and it was just one of Zane's many residences. I need to go back to the competition for the next few days, so she has to stay with you for now. Take good care of her, Emma said as she shot Zane a glare. Then she turned to me and gently patted my head. Hazel, can you stay at Zane's place for a little while? I'll come get you later. I nodded. Emma was really beautiful when she smiled. She looked exactly like the mother I had always dreamed of when she spoke to me gently. I could not stop myself as I tugged on the hem of her coat and asked, "Can I call you Mom?" She froze and glanced at Zane on instinct, but when she met my panicked, careful eyes, she could not force the rejection out of her mouth. "Of course you can." "Mom," I whispered, so softly it barely made a sound. When she nodded, I got braver and said it again. Then I explained, "Before this, I never dared to call my mother Mom because she would get upset. She only liked it when my sister called her that." Emma's smile wavered for a second. Then she looked at me earnestly. "I love hearing you call me that. The past is in the past now, Hazel." After Emma had left, Zane and I just stared at each other. Then he pointed upstairs and said, "Go look at the rooms. Sleep wherever you want. Just tell the butler, and he'll have someone set everything up." I nodded, twisting the hem of my clothes in my hands. Maybe he could tell I was nervous, so his voice softened. "Thank you, Hazel. If you hadn't saved me, I don't even want to think about what would have happened to me right now." It was the first time Zane had ever said so much to me. I stared at him, stunned, then hurriedly said, "It's all right. I'm the one who should be thanking you for getting me out." The truth was that I had saved him with my own selfish hope. I had wanted to pick a new dad for myself. I bit my lip, fought with myself for a second, then asked, Can I call you Dad?" He paused. I panicked and apologized. "I'm sorry for being greedy. I already have Emma. It's fine. If you don't want me to, that's all right." Zane suddenly chuckled. "It's all right. Go ahead. Next time you can call us Dad and Mom right in front of Emma." He then faked a cough as if something had just occurred to him, and his ears turned red. Meanwhile, I was too happy with my new parents to notice what was happening. That night, I picked a guest room close to Zane's bedroom. The housekeeper made the bed with a soft blanket and helped me get changed into a pair of pretty pajamas. As I looked at myself in the mirror, all clean and bright, a strange, unreal feeling washed over me. Everything felt like a dream. No, it was happier than any dream I had ever dared to have. That night, I slept better than I ever had. The bed was not hard anymore, and instead, it was soft like clouds. I did not have to lie there, scared that I would oversleep and get punished the next day. Over the next few days, Zane stayed home to recover. I trailed after him and took care of him, pushing his wheelchair and bringing him whatever he wanted. He smiled and said, "You don't need to do all of this." I lowered my head, then looked up seriously after thinking for a moment. "Dad, let me do this. I don't want to be a bother." He stayed quiet for a long time, then finally agreed. At dinner, he even ate the food I had prepared myself. I stood on a little stool and cooked, while the housekeeper kept trying to step in. She's so little, how could she let me do it? How could I let her do this?
Zane reached out and stopped her, his voice low.
"Just a few times. She won't be doing this anymore later on." When the food was ready, I carried it over happily. Zane did not expect much, but he was quite surprised after the first bite. "Not bad. It's really good." I smiled widely and lifted my chin proudly. "Of course. Grandma taught me to cook when I was 3. I can do it." Caught up in my own joy, I did not see the pain that flickered in Zane's eyes. After I had been at Zane's place for a month, he told me there was a party at the family residence that weekend, and he wanted to take me with him. I looked down at myself and panicked. Am I going to meet a lot of people? "Yeah, you're also going to meet my parents and my grandparents," Zane said.